Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Hiking Journal. In this episode, I hike up to the top of Agua Tibia Mountain along the Dripping Springs Trail. Along the way, I ran into some of the most deadliest snakes in North America while working my way up to the top of this remote peak in the Cleveland National Forest. Located in the Agua Tibia Wilderness in Southern California, Agua Tibia Mountain is a peak located in the northwest part of the Palomar Mountain Range. East of Temecula and south of State Route 79, most of it lies within the Cleveland National Forest, although the southernmost lower elevation part is contained in the Palma Indian Reservation. Agua Tibia is a nearly level ridge over 3 miles long that varies from 4,400 feet at the northwest end to 5,077 feet at the southeast end at Eagle Crag. The peak itself sits at 4,779 feet above sea level, and that's where I'll be heading today. The Agua Tibia Wilderness was established as a wilderness on January 3, 1975, with over 25 miles of hiking trails and encompasses close to 16,000 acres. It is mountainous and is cut by many deep canyons containing only intermittent streams. Vegetation here is mostly chaparral with oak woodlands, but it does have some coniferous forests at the higher elevations. In the summer months, small pools of water remain in the canyon bottoms where they become warm, and thus the name Agua Tibia, Spanish for warm water. Summertime temperatures may exceed 100 degrees in the canyon bottoms and on the slopes around here, but it's only a moderate 80 to 90 degrees at the upper elevations. But if you're lucky, you'll feel an ocean breeze. Rain only averages about 25 inches annually and falls usually from January through April, so that's the best time to try to reach the summit. Snow usually falls on the upper slopes occasionally, but it doesn't last long. The trail I'm taking to reach the summit of Agua Tibia Mountain today is called the Dripping Springs Trail. It begins at State Route 79 and a day-use parking area for the Dripping Springs campground. Since I live nearby, I've been up the Dripping Springs Trail many times, and on rare occasions I've taken it all the way up to the end of the trail, where it junctions off with the Palomar Maggie Trail, a round-trip hike of over 14 miles with over 3,000 feet of elevation gain. A tough day indeed. In today's adventure, I climb not only to the top of the Dripping Springs Trail, but I continue on past, using the Palomar Maggie Trail eastward until I reach an unsigned use trail and bushwhack my way up to the summit of Agua Tibia Peak. Now, I've posted several videos of the Dripping Springs Trail and its nearby cousin, the Wild Horse Trail, on this channel before, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time describing the trail. For that, you can always look back on previous videos I've posted. In today's edition, I head up the trail on a nice warm spring day and not only admire magnificent wildflowers on display, but have some real close encounters with some of the deadliest snakes in North America, the rattlesnake. Now, I decided to take this tough hike for 3 reasons. One, I just wanted to get in a good workout. Climbing close to 4,000 feet in elevation, you'll definitely feel it, believe me. I also expected to see some magnificent spring wildflowers that had just started to bloom. And lastly, the likelihood of running into a rattlesnake or two emerging from the winter hibernation was a definite possibility. And on today's adventure, I got a lot more than I bargained for. After grabbing a banana and a breakfast bar, I headed out the door on my short drive past hot air balloons on their sunrise balloon flight over the gorgeous Temecula wine country to the trailhead at the Dripping Springs campground only a few miles away. Well, good morning and welcome back to another edition of the Journal. I'm heading out to a local hike today. I'm going to go over to Dripping Springs Campground and do the Dripping Springs Trail to Agua Tibia Mountain. But in the meantime, I'll give you a little short glimpse here of what it's like living in Temecula. There's about 6 hot air balloons out there. One of them's coming in for a landing, it looks like. They do sunrise balloon flights out here. So anyway, we're going to be heading up to that mountain on the right. It's up toward the top. It's called Agua Tibia Mountain. I parked the Jeep and started through the Dripping Springs campground to the back end near the Arroyo Seco, a dry creek bed and home to the endangered western arroyo toad. Here my trail officially began. Well, that's where I'm headed today, Agua Tibia Mountain. Actually, I'm going to be going on the other side. That's not actually Agua Tibia, it's on the other side of that. And like I said, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a 16-mile hike. Up and over that, down into a little valley, and then up to another peak. But it'll be a pretty day up here. It's going to be perfect weather. Well, in the midst of all the construction noise, there is a little bit of wildlife here. Lots of birds out here in this campground. There's a rabbit looking at me. Well, now I know why the campground was full. Looks like the whole back half is closed. And the only time they do that is very specific times during the year. The western arroyo toad has its mating season. And it's on the endangered species list, and it lives in the Arroyo Seco Creek right at the trailhead. So they probably don't want people over here disturbing it during its breeding season, so I guess that makes sense. But these are some of the best campsites back here in this corner of the loop. Well, this is the sign-in register for the hike today. Little sign for dog owners. Normally they have a register. This is a little different. I'll also let them know where I'm going, the Agua Tibia Mountain. In case for some reason I don't return, they'll know where to start looking for me. Well, here's our first real trail sign. This is the split. The Wild Horse Trail to Wild Horse Peak goes to the left, and the one we're going to take goes to the right. You can see the cut in the ridge line. In fact, you can see a hiker way up there on the top. Must be one of the two people that signed in right before me, working his way up. Well, as I'm working my way up this canyon, there's several switchbacks working my way up to the top of this rise along this ridge, and it's all open, it's exposed. It gets really hot here. It's early now, it's 7:30 in the morning, so it's probably 60 right here, but it's going to heat up later. And last time I was in this section, I came upon a really nice coach whip snake slid out of the brush, and he went down into a hole before I could get the camera. So keep my eyes open through here. Maybe I'll get lucky, see some snakes today. Well, that is a tarantula hawk. It's just a big insect. Believe it or not, those have been known to kill and eat tarantulas. You can tell by the coloring on them. All right, well, here I am on the Dripping Springs Trail. I'm working my way up and over that. That is not my destination. That's not Agua Tibia Mountain. Where I'm going is on the other side of that. And at one point, it looks like you can see a cut about 3/4 the way up the ridge line. That's going to be my trail eventually as I work my way in among the shadows and up and over, probably most likely that notch. So that's where I'm heading today. What a great view, huh? That's the one good thing about this trail, is it's facing north and a little bit west in this section. So you got a great view of all of Temecula Valley. Vail Lake is just starting to pop over the horizon over there. And you can still hear that damn construction work. Hopefully when we get a little higher up, that'll be gone and we'll get on the other side. Leave that behind us. And right in front of me are some mountain quail. We're on the trail right there. They just headed up to the right into the brush. I don't know if you got the tail end of that or not. I just missed a coach whip. He came down from the right and raced across the trail, and I just missed him. This guy's staying nice and still for me, so that's good. Well, other than those two or three quail that I saw, went around the corner, and while I was filming, Coach Whip slithered out of the brush and raced across the trail, and I tried to get the camera on, but he's too quick. So hopefully we'll see another snake along the path here on the Dripping Springs Trail. According to All Trails, the last two posts that went up here both said they saw rattlesnakes. So it's that time of year they're out. It'll be nice and sunny today. Who knows, maybe I'll get lucky. You know, hiking up here on a hot day, you know, you might be a little concerned about dehydration, about do you have enough water to get you through the day. With a hike like this, of this duration, pushing 16, maybe even 17 miles, you have to make sure you have enough water. I'm carrying a 2-liter hydration bladder plus 2 24-ounce Gatorade bottles. And then, of course, my secret weapon is my 16-ounce double IPA. That ought to be plenty for today. There's no water up here on this trail. There's none. So if you ever have considered coming up here for a backpack trip, you better bring at least a gallon of water because there's no water sources. Certain times of the year, you might be able to find seasonal streams, but the odds are really, really low. You think of a place called Dripping Springs and a mountain called Agua Tibia, you think they'd have water, but no. But anyway, up I go. You know, now that we're getting a little higher up, we're getting a little more of a breeze. It's nice and cool. If I remember right, I think my trail is going to be going to the left. Up to the top of that, on the left side, my side of the peak. And it's working my way up toward the top of the Dripping Springs Trail, where it meets the Palomar Maggie Trail. And a little bit further than that to the left will be Agua Tibia Mountain. You know, what's funny, I remember this section of trail, and looking back at my prior videos, it was a little over a year ago, and I remember this one particular Spanish bayonet that was massive, and it stuck out onto the trail, and I think that's it. I have to compare it to the other ones from last year, see if I'm correct. All right, well, something ran across the trail into the brush. I don't think it was a rabbit. It was, oh, maybe it was. It is a rabbit. I see him. He's hiding in there. He was just fat. But maybe it was something else. Kind of strange to see a rabbit way up here. Yeah, well, there's one. There's probably more. Now, as I was hiking along, I was taking some extra time, not only to admire the greenery along the trail, but checking the rocks and crevices for snakes. I also approached each large rock, stick, or log near the trail with caution. Suddenly, as I rounded a corner on the trail, I saw something in the shadows that looked out of place. I moved in for a better look. All right, well, there's my first rattlesnake on the trail. Looks like he's in the process of eating a small rabbit. And this is a fairly young rattlesnake. It looks like he's got maybe 3 buttons, which means he shed 3, maybe 4 times. I'm gonna see if I can get a little closer without disturbing him. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Oh. Okay, I don't want to disturb him any more than I have to. Go back to eating your bunny there, Mr. Snake. Rattlesnakes are native to North and South America, living in diverse habitats from southern Canada all the way to central Argentina, and a vast majority of species live right here in the American Southwest and Mexico. Rattlesnakes are found in almost every habitat type, capable of supporting terrestrial ectothermic vertebrates. That means it's got to be the right temperature range. Rattlesnakes prefer a temperature range between 80 and 90 degrees, but can survive temperatures well below freezing, and most species live near open, rocky areas. Rocks offer them cover from predators, plentiful prey like rodents and lizards and insects that live in the middle of the rocks, and open basking areas so they can lay right out in the middle of the trail. However, rattlesnakes can also be found in a wide variety of other habitats, including prairies, marshes, deserts, and forests. Rattlesnakes are predators that hunt small animals such as birds and rodents. They're plentiful out here in the southwest, but stay mostly out of the sight during the day, hunting primarily at night. Rattlesnakes receive their name from a rattle located at the end of their tails, which makes a loud rattling noise when vibrated that deters predators or serves as warnings to passersby. The rattle is composed of a series of hollow, interlocked segments made of keratin, kind of like fingernails and hair. The contraction of special shaker muscles in the tail causes these segments to vibrate against one another and makes the rattling noise, which is amplified because the segments are hollow. Rattlesnakes are also the leading contributor to snakebite injuries in North America, but rarely bite unless provoked or threatened. And you'll see this on my adventure today. They don't want anything to do with us, they just want to get away and be left alone to do their thing. Now, rattlesnakes lie in wait for their prey, or they hunt for it in holes. The prey is killed quickly with a venomous bite as opposed to a constriction like a boa. Once the prey has become incapacitated, the rattlesnake locates its head by odors emitted from the mouth. The prey is then ingested head first, which allows the wings and limbs to fold at the points in a manner that minimizes the girth of the meal. The fangs of a rattlesnake are connected by venom ducts to large venom glands near the outer edge of the upper jaw toward the rear of the head. When the rattlesnake bites, muscles on the sides of the venom gland contract to squeeze the venom through the ducts and into the fangs. When the fangs are not in use, they remain folded against the palate. And did you know that rattlesnakes are born with fully functioning fangs and venom, and they're also capable of killing prey at birth? I didn't know that. Now, the venom of most rattlesnakes are hemotoxic, that means blood-related, destroying tissue, causing necrosis and coagulopathy, that's disrupting the clotting of the blood. The Mojave rattlesnake also has a presynaptic neurotoxin venom component known as the Mojave type A toxin, which can also cause severe paralysis, making it one of the most dangerous snakes in the world. Nice. Rattlesnakes are the leading cause of snakebite injuries in North America, and if treated promptly, the bites are seldom fatal. I did say seldom, right? Rattlesnakes rarely bite unless they feel threatened or provoked, and a majority of victims are males, often young and usually intoxicated. Go figure. About half of the bites occur in cases where the victim saw the snake, yet made no effort to move away and was just messing with it. Now, caution is advised even when the snakes are believed to be dead. Rattlesnake hits can sense, flick the tongue, and inflict venomous bites for up to an hour after being severed from the body. I once ran across a beautiful red diamond rattlesnake on the trail down to Cedar Creek Falls that had its head removed. The headless body writhed around the whole time I stood there. That was kind of creepy. And I remember the old story about the severed head biting through a cowboy boot. Well, I guess that's true. Well, kinda. An estimated 7,000 to 8,000 people are bitten by venomous snakes in the United States each year. In fact, even the Princess Bride star Carrie Elways was just bitten last week while gardening in his home near Malibu. The most important factor in survival following a severe envenomation is the time elapsed between the bite and the treatment. Most deaths occur between 8 and 48 hours after the bite. If anti-venom treatment is given within 2 hours of the bite, probably crofab, the possibility of recovery is greater than 99%. That's comforting, I guess. Well, enough about snakes already. I'm getting the heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. Alright, so let's head back to my story.
Well, remember that mountain we saw way off in the distance, the first one? Well, we went up and over that one. And then when we got to the top of that first one, we saw a valley and then a second mountain. This is the second mountain. And up there in that notch, where the pine trees are, that's where the Dripping Springs Trail ends. And we're going to be going to the left to get to Agua Tibia, but I still got a ways to go. All right, well, here's another rattlesnake. He's a little guy. He's tucking back into that crack right there. He was trying to get a little bit of sun. Okay, well, it must be snake day today. This looks like San Diego gopher snake. Could also be a garter snake, but I'm taking it that it's a San Diego gopher snake. It's not venomous. And he's young too, because these get really big. He's just laying right out in the trail, trying to get some sun. See if I can get a little closer. Okay, you're gonna have to move, because I gotta continue my hike here. There he goes. Well, he's giving me some room. He's stubborn.
Within a few minutes, I had reached the end of the Dripping Springs Trail. Now, I had been here many times, and there was a nice open patch of grass shaded by ancient oaks, and it was a great place to take a break, have lunch, or even set up camp for the night. This time it was different. The largest oak had cracked off and had fell to the forest floor, the heavy rotten limbs disintegrating on impact. At first I thought the tree had been struck by lightning, but I soon realized it had just succumbed to old age.
I just ran into a woman about 15 minutes ago. She said it looked like a tree exploded on the trail. And this wasn't here last time I was here. Wow. I guess this is the spot where I normally set up my lunch and camp. And I can see what she means now. That tree right there looks like it had seen better days and just finally gave in to Mother Nature. Well, this is just 20, 30 feet up the trail. So the Dripping Springs Trail ends and the Palomar Maggie Trail goes left toward Eagle Crag. So we're going to be heading up this way. We're going to see if we can find a cairn or something that'll lead us to the top of Agua Tibia. I'll go a little ways. If I don't see anything that's obvious, I'll get out my GPS.
This section of trail I'd never been to before, and I'd always heard it was overgrown and difficult to follow. On today's hike, it really wasn't that bad. Sure, it was tight in some spots, but I've been on worse trails. Agua Tibia Peak is seldom visited, and there's not much of a trail to get to the final push. I was looking for some indication of a route off the Palomar Maggie Trail to the top.
Well, this is new territory for me. I've never been past the campground where the Dripping Springs Trail ends. And I just passed an older guy, and he said that he's going to the overlook. And in fact, the older gal that I talked to, she said you can see the ocean. So I know at one point we'll get to a spot where we'll be able to see off to the southern end of the range, which means we've climbed not only the first mountain, but the second mountain. And wow, you can see the ocean. When I get to a clear spot, I'll show you. Wow, pretty impressive view. I also got to look out for that Agua Tibia Mountain cairn, so I don't miss that, because Agua Tibia Mountain is over that way. Wow, look at that. All right, well, I've come to the overlook, and that is a view looking south and west, and you can see the Pacific Ocean in the haze way out there. Well, I'm not too far from the use trail that's going to get me to Agua Tibia. I checked the All Trails map about 5 minutes ago, and it looked like the spur trail was right off this main trail. And this is pretty thick, so you think if there was a spur trail, you'd see it. Well, it doesn't look like there's too much more above me to the left. And I'm going through some pretty thick stuff here. The trail's a little overgrown on this side. I'm probably over 7 miles of hiking so far, and I'm not even to the top. All right, well, I'm walking down the trail, and I haven't seen anything that looks like it could be a cairn. But then I saw this, and then I saw that, and then I saw this. So I think as the trail continues this way, I'm pretty sure, even though there's no signs of ribbons or anything, this is probably the scramble to the top of Agua Tibia. Guess we'll find out. Well, it looks like some work has been done. I see sections where some of the brush has been cut back. It's not going to be easy. Well, I think this is the final push to the top of Agua Tibia. This section's pretty steep. And the Manzanita. I heard there was a summit register and a very unique rock. And it looks like I see the rock. Watch out for snakes. There was some poison ivy I had to negotiate, poison oak. That's the actual summit right there. Now I gotta figure out a way to get over there. Oh, in fact, it looks like right there is the summit marker and registry. Well, it looks like I made it to the top of Agua Tibia Mountain. This is it. Here's the summit register. The benchmark is right here. So I'm going to take a few minutes and log in here to prove I was actually up here. Then I'm going to go down a little ways and take a break, eat some lunch.
Once on top, I wandered around the summit block, but the going was tough. The low scrub brush made it difficult to get solid foot placement, and I slipped on some uneven rock several times before I gave up and decided to head over to find a more flatter, open spot for lunch.
Well, I made it up to the top of Agua Tibia Mountain out here in the Cleveland National Forest. I'm taking a break, and I'm going to have me a Spam single and another beer from, I think this is from Paperback Brewing. Electrical instruments in hazardous locations. I got to show you this. Look at the graphics on this. Pretty cool, huh? It's still cold. I had it in double koozie all the way up here. And this one is West Coast Double IPA. That's one way to keep your hydration up. It was not so much a tough hike up here, it was just a long hike. The grading on it was really well maintained. There wasn't a lot of really steep sections. Most of it was pretty good. I hiked the whole thing, at least half of it so far, in my Luna sandals. Nothing, no hot spots, no blisters, no stone bruises or anything like that. So, as long as I can avoid kicking a rock or two when I get tired as I get closer to the car, that's the only concern I have. These Spam singles are great for backpacking. A little heavy, but for day hikes, they're great. That the protein from the mystery meat, whatever this is pretty good. And the salt really helps you retain water when you're sweating a lot. It's a little breezy up here on the top, but it actually feels pretty good. It's probably in the low 70s. So I'm going to have my Spam lunch, have my beer, and then start working my way down. Normally I bring coffee, but I did today. I thought it'd be a little too hot for coffee. Saw 4 snakes today. Saw a coach whip, Southern Pacific rattlesnake, the one that was eating the rabbit, Western diamondback that was in the crack of the rock, and then that Southern Pacific gopher snake that was just laid across the trail. So that's the most I've ever seen on one hike. It's spring, so the little ones are out. I didn't see any real big ones. So who knows, maybe later on the way down, we'll be heading down to the, kind of a little bit to the northwest on the way back to the car. So we'll be in the sun almost all the way. It's probably going to get warm. I'm holding up really good though. So I haven't looked at the GPS, but I know for a fact I've hiked probably 7.5, 8 miles already. And I've got another 8 to go. And probably 75% is going to be downhill. So it shouldn't be too bad. I'm hoping to be back to the car by. My spam fell right on top of my foot. Is there a 3-second rule if it doesn't hit the dirt? I don't know. It landed right on top of my dirty foot though. Oh well.
I'm always a little nervous when making my way through the thick brush and narrow trails, not only because of the possibility of brushing up against vegetation loaded with ticks, but also the likelihood of surprising a rattlesnake not being used to a lot of human company. For that reason alone, I was cautious on my descent back to the Palomar Maggie Trail.
Okay, well, just when I thought I had seen enough snakes for the day, here's another one. This is another western diamondback, and this one is not a juvenile. This one's an adult. I'm going to let him go on his merry way. I don't want any part of that guy. Yeah, this is the stuff that I don't like. It's poison oak, but there's nowhere else to go. So on the way up here, I kind of did a Mother May I step sideways. I just hope when I slither by here, the wind doesn't blow, because this is definitely poison oak.
The trail down from Agua Tibia Peak to the Jeep was a long way. Looking at my GPS, I had hiked over 8 miles already, and I was only halfway. I had made good time, though, and the descent was always better than the climb. With a sense of accomplishment, I picked up the pace, feeling the breeze blowing through the open toes of my sandals. God, these Luna sandals are great to hike in. I gotta do this more often. Now, views were outstanding up here on the upper ridges. Views off over Vail Lake, San Bernardino, and San Jacinto Mountains made it look like I was flying down the slope in an airplane. When I got to a bend in the trail, I remembered the rock outcrop with a rattlesnake resting in the crack, and I stopped for a second look.
And remember that western diamondback that I saw earlier? He's still there. He's taking a nap in the crack of that rock right there. He's a little bigger than I thought. There's his tail, unless there's more than one. Here's the other half of him over there. I'll leave him alone. Actually, I think there's 2 in there. Yep. He looks like a little baby. Well, he's got a few buttons. He's got about 6 or 7 maybe. He's still not very big.
This last section of trail near the campground was somewhat boring, as I'd been through this section many times and it was like old hat. When I finally reached the Wild Horse Trail junction, I was within a few minutes from an ice-cold beer and a padded seat. Suddenly, I saw something lying to the side of the trail. Another rattlesnake. This time, it was a really big one.
Looks like another rattlesnake. Don't know what kind that is. He's definitely Southern Pacific maybe. He's a full-grown adult. He's definitely got a triangular shaped head. Okay, this is a full-grown adult. And he's not happy. And he slithered away into the brush. Well, I just saw another rattlesnake. That's like the 6th one today. That's a record for me. You know, I always say it's going to be a lucky day when I see a rattlesnake, but I really didn't want to see 6 of them. I mean, some of them were off the trail and I had to kind of look for them, but that last one, there's a couple of more gamble squirrels over there feeding in the grass. The last one was just laid out right in the middle of the side of the trail, and I had to give him a wide berth, and he scooted off down into the brush, so good for him. He was rattling all the way down, and The other ones that were in the crack of the rock, they pretty much kept to themselves. And then the other one that was trying to get the rabbit, when I came down, I looked for him again. I didn't see him or the rabbit, so he must have came back up and took the rabbit and either ate him and finished his business, or he took the rabbit down into the brush so he wouldn't be bothered. I don't know. It's been a long day. It's about 10 after 4. I started at about 7:45. I'll be glad to get to the car. It's going to be a total of about 15, 16 miles today. Wow, it's a long hike for me. Well, I made it back to the Jeep. And let's see how far this was. This was a long hike. Check that out. You see that's 16.61 miles. That was a hard hike. Never seen so damn many snakes in my life. Saw a total of 8 snakes. We saw 6 rattlesnakes, a black coach whip, and a Southern Pacific gopher snake.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Journal, my hike up Agua Tibia Peak, and my encounter with rattlesnakes in Snake City. By the time I got home, I had counted 8 snakes today. It was a record that I soon won't forget. 2 Southern Pacific rattlesnakes, a western diamondback, and what I later learned were brown-faced speckled rattlesnakes tucked into a crevice between the rocks. I also saw a super speedy black coach whip, and it was simply just too fast for me to get a photo of it. But I also saw a lazy San Diego variety gopher snake that was just hanging out getting a suntan. The highlight was the Southern Pacific rattlesnake trying to swallow a rabbit head first. I had never seen anything like that before, neither had anybody else I had run into on the trail. That was a real treat. Well, for the snake at least. In the next edition, I head back out along the Pacific Crest Trail to Eagle Rock on a beautiful, warm spring day. Along the way, I take in some spectacular scenery, see a little wildlife, and meet some fine people hiking along the PCT to Canada. That'll all be coming up in the next edition of the Journal. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave a note or post a comment in the comment section below. And be sure and click and subscribe, and I'll see you down the trail. Take care. Bye-bye.
Pacific, maybe? He's a full-grown adult. He's definitely got the triangular-shaped head. Okay, this is a full-grown adult. And he's not happy. And he slithered away into the brush.